Kamala Harris has a brand new accent, but apparently she's only going to use it in the South or maybe in certain neighborhoods. What is that all about? We'll tell you. Also, harrowing email that's been released from a Secret Service agent to all of his colleagues saying that the next assassination attempt on Donald Trump is imminent, like within the next 30 days. And I sure hope people are paying attention to that. Also, the rewriting of Kamala Harris's record continues. Now she's super tough on the border. We'll break apart all of her lies coming up right now. My name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry. I was going to keep the whole you can call me weird thing going on because I think we need to own weird. Take weird back. Keep America weird. Isn't that something that they celebrate in Austin, Texas, right? Keep Austin weird. Now weird is bad until it's good again. I can't keep it straight. I hope you can help me with it. Thanks for watching as we stream live across all the Town Hall Media social media platforms. That includes Rumble, where our very active live chat is going on, as well as YouTube and X, and of course, Facebook. Yeah. Hi, Zuck. Good to see you. If you're watching us after the fact, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe to this podcast so that you don't miss a beat. And also, so it helps, elevate it in the social media algorithms. I'll be honest with you. That's why we want you to like and comment and subscribe, because it lets the big tech overlords know that you like this, that this is relevant to you, that it's important. And the more our word gets out, well, the more it drowns out the other voices out there, the ones who are lying to you and the ones who are condescending, patronizing, and treat you like a kindergartner. The liberals. Yesterday, there was a hearing at the joint Senate and House looking into the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. It's only been 18 days. And in most of the mainstream media outlets, they've pretty much forgotten it. I promised you on Monday that we will not forget it. We are still shook by the fact that if it weren't for a quarter-inch turn of the head, Donald Trump would be dead in a pool of blood right now. I don't know why other people seem to be okay with that. The underlying message that's conveyed by the sort of noblesse oblige sort of approach to this story, the underlying message is, well, it was Trump. So, no big deal, right? It's almost like Jack Black's partner on Tenacious D, who believe, by the way, his name is literally Jack Black's partner on Tenacious D. When he said out loud what everybody else was thinking in the left-wing media and in the pop culture, which is, better aim next time. Sorry if that hurts anybody's feelings out there, but as long as there's lack of interest in pursuing the truth behind what happened on July 13th, as long as there's a lack of interest to hold those accountable who at the very best made one of the most drastic blunders in Secret Service history, until they take that seriously, we can only assume that you don't care that Donald Trump, the former president of the United States and the nominee for the Republican nominee for president this time around, almost got his head exploded in front of the entire world. You just don't seem to care about that. Mainstream elite media, we do care. It's a critically important story. And yesterday at that hearing, a whole lot was revealed, including this email that first was surfaced by Susan Crabtree, political reporter at Real Clear Politics. She's been covering the Secret Service for years now. She is the perfectly placed journalist to cover this. And I want you to see what this Secret Service agent said. Again, dated this Monday. And this was one of those, send to all kind of emails. He meant to send this to all. In fact, Susan Crabtree, I just interviewed her this morning on my radio show in Washington, D.C., and apparently this agent said that a bunch of his colleagues, emailed him back and said, hey, dude, you sent this to everybody. You know how you do that sometimes? You do a reply all and someone say, hey, did you mean to reply all? And this agent said, yeah, I know I did. I meant to do that. Everybody needs to understand this. So let's read it together. Thank you for the backing and support. I'm not stopping until 5 high-level supervisors, one down, are either fired or removed from their current positions. This agency needs to change. If not now, when? The next assassination attempt in 30 days? Because we all should expect another attempt to happen before November. We've exposed our inability to protect our leaders due to our leadership. The technicians who worked on 71324 in Butler, Pennsylvania did their job with their hands tied. Secret Service supervisors knew better, and the foot soldiers working made the best of a bad situation that resulted in a civilian death and a near miss of the protectee and our technician shooting and killing the suspect. I know many look at the CS team as guys who sit on the roof. CS is counter sniper, by the way, and don't do much. But our responsibility, our mission is not about protecting an empty White House located at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's about preventing and stopping another JFK-style assassination in whatever city they may be. Sadly, we have fallen short for years. We just got lucky and looked good doing it. I have conveyed these thoughts to not only supervisors, to include the current captain within CS, but those responsible for training us, SOTS CS, only to be brushed off as if those were with less experience somehow knew more than me. The team I was once proud to be a part of is something I have to now somehow hide as I move into my next career. Who wants to hire a U.S. Secret Service counter sniper guy who failed? That's the public perception I'm now faced with. The USSCS team is a stain I will never be able to cleanse. Some of us take our job and responsibility seriously, deadly serious. I may be overzealous, but after 7 years in the Marine Corps as an NCO and 20 plus years on the USSS counter sniper team, failure is not an option. And on July 13th, 24, we failed. Not because of commitment or sense of dedication, but because our supervisors, leadership, knew better and thought our concerns were less than important. The motto of the USSS, CYA. And every supervisor is doing it right now. And if you didn't know, CYA means cover your. And sadly, that's kind of the common operating procedure in all of the Washington, D.C. bureaucracy. Every single federal agency, especially those in the executive branch, they all operate on a CYA basis. But we always thought certain agencies were different, certain institutions were different, and the Secret Service was one of them, but not anymore. You'll remember when James Comey was caught red-handed setting up Donald Trump, leaking information through a friend of his, classified information, to the New York Times to make Trump look bad. It led to his firing. And then when James Comey went on a big publicity tour, and I remember vividly, he was being interviewed by Brett Baier of Fox News Channel. And of course, James Comey's like, I have grave concerns here. You know, our president, there's evidence that is the whole Russian collusion hoax thing. But I don't want to get into that. I want to get into something that James Comey said at the time that has always resonated with me. When asked about how he dealt with President Trump and how he represented the FBI during the first months of the Trump administration that led to his firing, James Comey said, I realized at the beginning with President Trump that my sole job was to protect the institution of the FBI. And that sounds really noble. It sounds like he's a really great cop and he's pristine because, well, that's what he wants you to think. That's what the media and the elites in the establishment of Washington, D.C. want you to think. Yes, that's right. These institutions must be protected. No. What you're seeing right now with the Secret Service and the FBI in the aftermath of this assassination attempt is exactly that. CYA, protect the institution. Well, guys, they don't get sworn into office in their very cushy federal job that pays them very good salaries with very good benefits. And as we've learned, protection from being fired, no matter how inept or corrupt you might be. They don't get all of those benefits by swearing in on a Bible saying, I swear to protect and defend the institution from all enemies, foreign and abroad. No, you're not supposed to protect the institution. You're supposed to protect the Constitution. And the Constitution says that the head of the executive branch is the president of the United States. And if the president orders you to do something, you follow what the president said. You don't ignore him to protect the institution. Guess what? If the president of the United States wants to dismantle the institution, he's allowed to do that because he answers to us, we, the people, through the elections. James Comey doesn't answer to us. Does James Comey answer to you? Does the director of the Secret Service answer to you? No. That's why we have a constitutional republic. That's why these people answer to the president and answer to the legislative branch responsible for oversight. But this is this morass that seeps into Washington, D.C. at every institution, whether it's the Agriculture Department or the EPA or the IRS, and now, sadly, the FBI and the Secret Service. We have to protect the institution. I'm sorry, guys. I love the FBI, or I used to. I love the Secret Service, or at least I used to. I love these institutions, but they're still not bigger than the Constitution. They're not bigger than we, the people, the first three words in the Constitution. If you really want to protect the institution, don't act like this. Don't act like you're bigger than the Constitution. Don't act like you can defy the will of the people. If we elect a president who says they're going to dismantle the Department of Education and you work in the Department of Education and that president is elected, step aside because he's doing what we wanted him to do. Your institution is not more important. But this is the mindset in Washington, D.C. And that mindset now looks as though, or the mindset now manifests in such a way during these hearings that we're seeing and during this investigation. The mindset of protect the institution, CYA at all costs, looks like they're trying to cover something up, covering something up much more than just incompetence or bad decisions. Because when you're covering something up, when you're obfuscating, when you're deflecting, when you won't answer questions like we saw in the hearing yesterday, you may be doing it because you're trying to protect your buddies or protect your budget. But if we don't know exactly what you're protecting, we think you're protecting something much more nefarious than that. That's why transparency and oversight is so important. Now, Marsha Blackburn, the senator from Tennessee, she actually read into the record that exact email that I just read to you, and then asked the acting director, Mr. Rowe, exactly about this mindset, about this culture that the Secret Service is now all about CYA. Watch the exchange.
Thank you, Senator. So I'm hurt by that email, but not in the way you think I'm saying it. I'm hurt because my people are hurting right now. We need them.
Then why did somebody delete the email?
I'll get back to you on that, Senator.
The agency deleted the email.
But may I address your question?
Yes,
and
please.
I will get back to you
Please.
as to whether
Yes.
the email was deleted or not. My agency is hurting. Emotions are raw. I actually want to hear more from that UD officer, that technician. In his email, he referenced that he had spent time serving our nation as a United States Marine, that he is a 20-year professional of the Secret Service. I am committed to being a change agent, meaning I am committed to reviewing some of these things. I looked at the points in his email very quickly. I saw it as I was on my way over here this morning. I want to have further conversations, not only with him, but also the counter sniper supervisors.
If I may step back in, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So you want to talk with him. What about other whistleblowers? What about this culture? Are you going to allow these whistleblowers to speak out? Because it is troublesome if somebody went into the server and deleted that email. I would hope you will get to the bottom of that and be able to provide some answers. Because this is, as you have heard from both sides, this is a situation that cannot be allowed to happen again.
He's hurt by that email. He's hurt. He's really hurt because his agents are hurting. The technician they're talking, they use words technician. The man's a sniper. His job is to kill people. His job is to put a bullet in a person's brain if they are a threat to the protectee, in this case, the president or the nominee or former president. I assure you, this isn't about hurt feelings, pal. I know that guy, take a look at him. He's got the haircut. He looks real squared away. Looks like a real, Menschy kind of red-blooded American brute. But I don't care. I don't care what he looks like. You know, he spent years on Capitol Hill working for Vermont Senator Pat Leahy, one of the most liberal and partisan, like ruthlessly partisan Democrats on Capitol Hill. After that, he worked as an advisor in the Obama administration. And now he's the deputy director, or acting director, I should say, of the Secret Service. You know, maybe if he really wants to be the change agent he says he should be, change should start with him. Maybe these positions in charge of something as vital and critical to the Secret Service shouldn't be political appointees who are beholden to one party or the other, especially someone who is so raw, ideological, and partisan as Pat Leahy and Barack Obama. Maybe that's part of the reform that we need. But it just doesn't occur to him because he's too busy with all the feelings. To coin a phrase from our friend Ben Shapiro, that bullet that whizzed by President Trump's skull and took a chunk out of his ear, that bullet doesn't care about your feelings. Fix the problem. 18 days later, and this guy still doesn't have any answers. Meanwhile, a former Secret Service agent was on Fox and Friends earlier, and he expressed similar outrage and analysis. Let's take a look at that.
Bring in former Secret Service agent Richard Staropoli. He joins us right now. Richard, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, the acting boss yesterday, he seemed quite frustrated. He said that he was baffled and senators were yelling at him and he was yelling back.
Yeah, he was baffled, all right. If nothing else, he certainly proved that he can read a statement that was prepared for him. But, you know, the public, the ranking file, the entire world was watching that testimony, and they expect a Secret Service director to answer questions directly and bluntly and pointedly, not to lose their composure, and certainly not to get argumentative with congressmen and senators who are approving your budget. That's part of the problem.
Yeah. As CB just mentioned, Real Clear Politics has gotten a copy of a memo that's circulating with a lot of Secret Service people. It sounds like it's from a current counter sniper inside the organization. And they say there's going to, they predict there's going to be another assassination attempt, given the fact that now everybody knows that there are lapses in security. They say it could happen before September. I know you have seen that particular memo. You think you know who it's from.
Yep.
Essentially, what they're calling for is they got to clean house at the top of the Secret Service.
Well, and that's exactly right. I've read that memo, or at least the memo that was published, you know, throughout the press yesterday. And they're absolutely right. The Secret Service needs a house cleaning, right? The director of the Secret Service did not put on anywhere near the performance that she should have 2 weeks ago. And she passed the baton to these folks, to include the acting director and the bench that's sitting behind them. These are all legacy leaders. They all have to go. They're the ones that are more culpable and responsible for setting up the tone and the attitudes which led to what happened operationally 3 weeks ago. Not only do they need to get rid of the folks that were on the ground that were directly responsible for what happened here 3 weeks ago as well.
Right now, there's so much finger pointing going on as well, not only inside the Secret Service, but also the Secret Service, the local cops, the state cops. It's just a mess.
Yeah, there's a lot of finger pointing, but you know what's interesting is that no names are named. You know, who is responsible for this? Well, this department. No. Who? There had to be a person who made the decision, leave that building open. Yeah, we're still looking into that. That's the only question at this point. They know. Of course they know. Listen, like I said on Monday, it just struck me that we, our entire team here at Town Hall, still reeling from this near disaster on July 13th. And the fact that the people in other media outlets have sort of moved on to the new flashy story of Kamala Harris and whether she's having a brat summer or not seems to be, at the very least, journalistic malpractice, if not intentional ignorance and ignoring of an incredibly serious topic. The near assassination of it, talk about election meddling, talk about election interference. Talk about democracy dies in darkness. An assassin's bullet doesn't get more permanent than killing the democratic process. And one is suspect of journalists, reporters, analysts, media outlets, streamers like we are here, not spending the kind of time that we're spending on it. And I want to spend time. I promised you we would. We've got a lot to get to today, but let's get to some of the better questions and answers from yesterday's hearing. I'm going to let it play as much as I can so that you can be informed. And when compelled, I'll comment, but I'll do my best, I promise, because there's so much to get to. We start with Josh Hawley from Missouri.
American is dead, that other Americans were critically wounded. Isn't that enough mission failure for you to say that the person who decided that building should not be in the security perimeter probably ought to be stepped down?
Senator, I think you're using the word decided, and I think we need to allow the investigation play out to include.
Who did make the decision then? If it wasn't the lead site agent, who made the decision not to put that in the security perimeter?
Senator, you're zeroing in on one particular agent. I want to find out exactly what was the entire decision process. So I think I want to be neutral and make sure that we get to the bottom of it and interview everybody in order to determine if there was more than one person who perhaps exercised bad judgment.
Well, sure. My question is, why don't you relieve everybody of duty who made bad judgment? So, yeah, you're right. I am zeroing in on somebody. I'm trying to find somebody who's accountable here. And you're telling me that the person who made the decision not to include this in the perimeter has not been relieved of duty. What about the person who's in charge of the interoperability of radio frequencies between local law enforcement and Secret Service? Has that person been relieved of duty?
No, Senator, because interoperability is a challenge, is a greater challenge than just one person. On that day, we had a counterpart system. It failed.
As the person who made the decision to send Donald Trump onto stage, knowing that you had a security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir, they haven't.
As the person who decided not to pull the former president off of stage when you knew that, in your words, the locals were working a serious security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir. Again, I refer you back to my original answer that we are investigating this through a mission assurance. And as opposed to zeroing in on one,
what more do you need to investigate to know
exactly what the decision-making process was?
What more do you need to investigate to know that there were critical enough failures that some individuals ought to be held accountable? I mean, what more do you need to know?
What I need to know is exactly what happened, and I need my investigators to do their job.
You see what's happening here, but I do want to jump in and just remind you, it's been 18 days. Well, we need to know what happened here. We need to interview people. What the hell have you been doing for 18 days? In any other environment, this person's fired. I mean, they're all fired. Okay, you've got 10 days, and then I want all the answers to what happened here. 18 days later, yeah, I'm still trying to figure it out, man. You know, something tells me this guy's in a hot dog suit as well. We're trying to figure out who did this. All right, I'll get back, but it's just, I know that you're as frustrated as I am, and I just want to remind you, every time he says, yeah, well, we're trying to get to the bottom of it, 18 days later. And this is literally his one job.
And I cannot,
a lot of people didn't do their jobs.
Put my thumb on the scale. Otherwise,
what do you mean put your thumb on the
objective? You're asking me, Senator, to completely make a rush to judgment about somebody failing. I acknowledge this was a failure of the
Is it not prima facie that somebody has failed? A former president was shot.
Sir, this could have been our Texas school book depository. I have lost sleep over that for the last 17 days,
Then
just like you have.
Somebody
and
to
I will
hold them
tell you,
accountable.
Senator, I will tell you, Senator, that I will not rush to judgment, that people will be held accountable, and I will do so with integrity and not rush to judgment and put people unfairly persecuted.
Unfairly persecuted.
Unfairly,
people
sir.
Who are
we
dead.
have to be able to have a proper investigation into this, Senator.
You said earlier that you've got to make sure that your protocols are followed, and unless there's a protocol violation, people wouldn't be disciplined. I would just say to you, I don't really care that much about your protocols. I think if your protocols don't provide for the fact that when a former president is shot, when an American is killed, when other rally goers, innocent people who just showed up on the day, when they are shot at and critically wounded, if that isn't a protocol violation, prima facie, you should revise your protocols.
Senator, I think this is where you and I agree. This was a failure, and we will get to the bottom of it.
Well, I hope you're going to do something about it. Let me ask you something else. The Real Clear Politics reports this morning that you were directly involved in denying additional security resources and personnel, including counter snipers, not just to this event, but over the last 2 years that President Trump's team repeatedly asked for these additional resources, and you personally were involved in denying them. Is that true?
Senator, as I stated earlier, that is not true.
So you never denied any resources to former President Trump's team?
No, not me. No, sir.
And
Not
you
personally.
weren't involved in any of that? You
No,
were never
sir, I
involved
was
in the
not.
decision making?
No, sir, I was not.
Let me ask you just one or two other things here quickly. Well, whistleblowers tell me that, in fact, law enforcement were stationed to be on that roof and that law enforcement abandoned their post because it was too hot. Is that accurate?
Senator, I have heard that as well. Again, they posted up inside. And I think moving forward, as I said earlier, we're going to ensure that state and local counter snipers are on roofs.
But do you know if someone was supposed to be on the roof? Do you know if someone was in fact? That's what the whistleblowers tells me. That may or may not be accurate. Do you know that to be the fact? Was somebody posted to the roof, local law enforcement or whomever?
I do not know that to be a fact.
Well,
All right. I want to move on to Senator Mike Lee, but I wanted to make sure you got that answer. 18 days later, he doesn't know whether local law enforcement had been assigned to that roof or not. And the fact that he gets uppity and starts, I'm sorry, who works for who here? Who is accountable to who here? Who has oversight and who is supposed to be overseen? The arrogance of him pushing back. He's trying to have his big television viral moment. How dare you, sir? At long last, have you no shame? How dare you ask me? This could have been our Texas book depository. We're well aware of that, pal. You're the one who seems to be acting like this is just, listen, mistakes were made. We'll figure it out. Trust us. It's not how this works. Let me tell you something. That entire attitude that you just saw is why we are where we are. That entire attitude that he just displayed for the entire world to see is exactly why July 13th happened. Mike Lee, senator from Utah, had quite a bit to say.
Why was President Trump allowed to take the stage at 6:02 p.m., exactly 17 minutes after multiple suspicious person reports were provided, complete with photos and information suggesting that the assailant had a rangefinder, something that ordinary people don't use in this kind of circumstance?
Senator, again, it was suspicion, not weapon, or there was never communication of that there was an individual with a gun or threat or other bad intentions.
Yeah, you know what? And that reminds me that the exchange you just saw, I'm not going to leap to a hasty conclusion. We're going to do this right. I'm going to keep my integrity. We don't want to jump to any conclusions. That's the mentality that the agents on the ground had when they said, all right, so this guy looks suspicious and he sort of snuck in and he's got a rangefinder and he keeps using it to look at where the president's going to be standing. But let's not leap to conclusions. Let's not keep eyes on him and make sure he doesn't slip away. Let's not treat it as a threat. That's the same mentality, right? Oh, I don't know. I mean, sure, somebody may have made a mistake here or there. Clearly, I mean, this was a bad day for us, but let's not leap to conclusion as to who might be guilty. Let's let this drag out. Let's let the evidence trail go cold. Let's let people's memories get all muddy. Let's spend the next 18 days covering our ass and maybe making sure that we all have our stories straight. You see, the reason why you investigate something immediately is to make sure that none of the conspirators, none of the people who are all trying to protect each other get together and agree on a story, agree on a lie, right? That's why the investigation needs to happen immediately. And at this point, I fear it's too late. But yeah, let's not leap to conclusion about who's responsible with the Secret Service. And at the same time, we're not going to leap to conclusion about some dirtbag guy who snuck in outside the perimeter with a rangefinder and is now using it to look at where the president's going to be standing. Hey, that could be anything, man. He might be a photographer. Let's not leap to conclusions. Only a bullet will change your mind.
How many suspicious person reports did you receive that day?
I'll get back to you on the exact number, but there were other individuals that came to the attention of law enforcement that day.
Would President Biden ever be allowed on stage under similar circumstances with an unresolved set of multiple suspicious person reports provided, including indicating that there was a rangefinder involved?
Senator, I can tell you that a suspicious person on the outer perimeter with local law enforcement attempting to locate would happen, but I would need more information as far as whether or not we would allow the president to go on or off. Again,
Now that, I'm sorry, guys, is a 100% answer. That is prime. You can smell it from the barnyard a mile away. Think about what he did. The question was very simple. Under the exact same circumstances, would President Biden been allowed on the stage the way President Trump was allowed on the stage? And this guy weasels away. Well, I'd need more information. No, you literally need no more information. The exact same scenario with the exact same suspicious character with a rangefinder and the way the perimeter was drawn with this building right there, 130 yards away. Everything is exactly the same. You don't need any more information. The only difference is instead of Donald Trump, it's Joe Biden. Would you have let him on the stage? What a lying, cover your ass weasel. Absolute weasel. And this is supposed to make the American people not only feel confident and secure with the Secret Service's ability to protect every person, and that includes Democrats, by the way. Unlike, sadly, so many people on the left, I don't want Kamala Harris to be assassinated. I don't want Joe Biden to be assassinated. This is supposed to make us feel confident in their ability to do their job, and it's supposed to make us feel confident that they're not covering anything up. Well, if that's what they're attempting to do, they have failed. Again, another failure.
For us, it comes down to weapon, a potential threat. Is the individual carrying an IED? Is there a weapon? Is there some other factor that now ramps up our attention to
Understood.
let's
Understood.
hold off on this?
If there were 8 shell casings found next to the assailant's body, but he was neutralized after the first shot, where did those other shots come from? Where did the other shots go?
As far as the assailant's
Yes.
shooting?
Yes. So did the assailant get out 8 shots, or were those shell casings left from the day before? Where did they come from?
The shooter, Senator, we believe fired 8 rounds. We had the shooting reconstruction team go out there for a period of days and collect all that. So we have bullet holes, bullet fragmentation, all taken back, and we're still putting together the trajectory and ballistic analysis, although we do have fragments of the bullets, and bullets have been collected in the distance from the shooter's weapon.
Gotcha.
Yeah, okay. And listen, the Mike Lee video is fantastic, and I believe we have it all posted at Town Hall. I do want you to see the whole thing. It's great stuff. It really is. And honestly, we could do an hour on this. We should do an hour on this. Where's ABC News doing an hour on this? Where's CBS News? Think about their budgets. Think about their resources. Think about how many people they have in Washington, D.C. covering the federal government. And have you seen anything coming from them? Really? I mean, I guess ABC did one thing up in Butler with the local law enforcement, but Secret Service, it takes Real Clear Politics and Town Hall and podcasters and talk radio hosts and streamers to actually draw attention to this. But you heard the deputy FBI director there. This is the guy who is the number 2 to Christopher Wray, talking about bullets and bullet fragments, which brings us to our, we have a lot of favorite senators, but I think John Kennedy might be our very, very favorite. And he remembers vividly last week, Director Christopher Wray of the FBI under the House Judicial Committee, when Jim Jordan, the chairman there, asked about whether it was a bullet that hit Donald Trump's ear. And Christopher Wray says, yeah, there's still some question about that, whether it was a bullet or shrapnel or what have you. You remember that. It fed into the fever swamp of Keith Olbermann and Joy Reid and all these other lunatics. It's saying, see, the FBI isn't even sure if it was a bullet. The whole thing's a fake. It's a fraud, right? Well, John Kennedy wanted to Jen Psaki circle back on that yesterday, and this is an important exchange. Remember, last week, the director of the FBI said that there's some question as to whether Donald Trump was hit by a bullet or shrapnel. Now watch this.
Is there any doubt in your mind or in the collective mind of the FBI that President Trump was shot in the ear by a bullet fired by the assassin crooks?
Senator, there is absolutely no doubt in the FBI's mind
It
whether
wasn't.
former President Trump was hit with a bullet and wounded in the ear. No doubt, there never has been.
Okay.
I've been part of this investigation since the very beginning, and that has never been raised.
You're sure
Yes.
it wasn't a space laser?
No.
It wasn't a murder hornet.
Absolutely not.
It wasn't Sasquatch.
No, Senator.
It was a bullet
It was a bullet, Senator. 100%.
fired by crooks
Yes, sir.
that hit President Trump in the ear and almost killed him.
100%, Senator.
Okay, glad we cleared that up.
Yeah, but he did more than clear it up, didn't he? He also pointed out that you heard him say it, there has never been a question about this. The FBI has never had any doubt in their investigation as to what hit Donald Trump in the ear a fraction of an inch from his skull on July 13th. It was the bullet from the assassin's gun. And yet Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, under oath last week, said, yeah, there's some doubt about that. There's some question. So Christopher Wray either knowingly lied under oath again, thus feeding the fever swamp of conspiracies on the left about Donald Trump just pretending and making it all up and really dipping his fingers into Heinz ketchup packet and then rubbing it on his face. Or Christopher Wray is completely uninformed and not aware of the investigation into the assassination of Donald Trump, but then speculated under oath in front of a House committee last week. Either way, maybe Christopher Wray should be finding a new job. You think? Yesterday in Atlanta, Kamala Harris had her first big rally, and they tell me 20,000 showed up in an arena. I don't know if that's how many were there. I can tell you this. It was a free concert for, is it Meg the Stallion? I'm usually plugged into pop culture, but Megan the Stallion, she's the one who sang that song that made Ben Shapiro famous, right? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, she gave a free concert with all the twerking and the profanity and everything that goes along with a Megan the Stallion free concert. And so, believe it or not, a lot of people showed up to see the free concert. Well, and then when the concert was over, it was time for Kamala Harris to speak. And while there are reports and videos showing a lot of people sort of saying, well, nothing more to see here, and they left. But that doesn't matter. 20,000 people, we're told, showed up for this big, huge, arena-packing rally for Kamala Harris, which the liberal media and the Democrats spent a lot of time celebrating last night, which is kind of funny because a month ago, we were told that rallies don't matter and how many people show up for a rally doesn't matter. But now it's all that matters. Something tells me that, well, some people had some rally envy out there. So Kamala got her rally, and it went great. It was amazing. I mean, just look at this dramatic introduction and entrance of the new presumptive nominee for president for the Democratic Party. Check it out.
I am so honored to be introducing the next President of the United States of America, Vice President Kamala Harris. Just a second.
Wow, that was amazing, wasn't it? I didn't know she was so short, though, right? She looks taller usually. The hell was that? That's not how you want to kick things off. Where is she? Amazing, actually. So not only do they have rally envy, but they also have premature introduction syndrome, apparently. That's not what you want. Well, eventually she made it out on stage. And well, first of all, I just want to point out that I coined the phrase last week that the media and the left are all having Kamalagasms, right? Which was very similar to Obamagasms that people had back during 2008 through 2019. Now the Kamalagasms are happening. They are trying to make her Barack Obama in a pantsuit. Although my understanding is at various times in his life, Barack Obama in a pantsuit was Barack Obama in a pantsuit, but that's a whole other story that I don't want to get into. Look at what they're doing with her. I want you to notice, I mean, this is subtle stuff, but if you remember the Barack Obama logo, you remember that round thing with the sort of sun rising and that. But there was something very interesting. Democrats have always embraced the color blue ever since the blue state, red state thing. Democrats used to be red states. If you go back and watch election night coverage in the 80s, Democrats were red and Republicans were blue. In Europe, the left-wing Liberal Party is always the red party, and the more conservative, non-socialist political party in Europe is always the blue party. In America, it was that way too. But then I think it was like the mid 90s when the Clintons were like, stop showing us as red. You should start showing us as blue because people associate red with communism. Rightly so. And of course, the networks immediately just switched to accommodate them. Whatever. We don't care. But I just wanted to point that out. Interestingly, though, when Barack Obama was running for president, he did something different with his blue. He made his blue this very light shade of sky blue, because it was all about hope and change. And it's not your old-fashioned grandpa's Democrat Party. No, he's something new and something different. So it was like this baby blue, sky blue, powder blue, like her suit. You see? This stuff matters. This stuff matters. It's her first big rally. It's in Atlanta, and they've got her in the Obama blue suit. She borrowed something else from Barack Obama. She borrowed a Southern, almost urban-sounding accent. Check this out.
And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024. Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
For those of you who are reading captions, let me make sure that that's spelled out right. She said, we all gonna do it in 2024. Not going to do it in 2024. No. Gonna do it in 2024. The hell is that?
And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024.
All right. So if you didn't know, Kamala Harris was born in Berkeley, Oakland, California. And make no mistake, there are some people who talk that way in Oakland. But I assure you, she didn't live in that neighborhood. No, she was the daughter of two college professors, neither indigenous to the United States of America. One of them born in India, that was her mother, and one of them born in Jamaica, that was her father. But again, college professors at Berkeley in the 60s. Then at the age of 7, when her parents divorced, she lived with her mother and they moved to, well, not to the south, well, maybe the southern part of Quebec, Canada, the province of Quebec. In fact, she went to college her first couple of years in Montreal. I guarantee you that being raised by her Indian-born mother from the age of 7 in Quebec, Canada, did not bring this accent into her basic vernacular. But it sure evokes a thing that Democrats love to do. I said she borrowed that sort of half-Southern, quasi-urban accent from Barack Obama that he could turn on and off whenever he wanted to, since he was raised by a white mother born of an African-born father in Hawaii, and then went to Occidental College in LA and then Harvard College in Massachusetts. Never once spent a day in the hood. Well, Barack Obama and Kamala Harris aren't the only ones to do this. In fact, it really evoked memories of a much whiter candidate for the Democrats who also liked to play cosplay in her own way. Check this out.
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me that the road would be easy. I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me.
And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024.
Yeah, they're frauds. This entire thing is a Hollywood script. She's the lead. The investors, you know, the fundraisers, they decided that they would put pressure on the director and producer to hire her to get into costume and read the lines and play the part that they need so that they can, you know, win an Oscar. They're not really worried about selling tickets. That'll take care of itself. Tickets would be the votes, of course. But this is all scripted. They're all phonies. They're all cosplaying. This is all make-believe. Look, this was Kamala Harris a week ago. This time wearing lavender because, you know, it's for the gays or something. And this is what she sounded like.
We are all in this together, and your vote is your power. So please make sure your voice is heard this November and register to vote at vote.gov.
Now, that's not the same voice as this.
And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024.
She's going to do or say whatever she has to fool the American people so that she can keep power for the Democrats. That's it. And it's not the first time she's done this. Early in the year, she appeared at a black church because, you know, when you're a Democrat, it's fine to campaign from the pulpit. Why are we not investigating the tax status of all these churches? That's a conversation for another time. But look what she did at this church.
I said to the congressman, I didn't know he could preach like that.
You know, a person who does this and is able to sort of morph themselves and pretend that there's something that they're clearly not, just to pander to whatever audience that happens to be in front of them, and can sort of change their, not just identity, but their voice and mannerisms. A person like that, there's a word for them. It's weird. Yeah, that's right. They're weird. Which is something, by the way, that Donald Trump picked up on. He was in an interview with Laura Ingraham. We played a little bit of this yesterday, and then the second part of the interview happened last night. And he picked up on this fact. It's like, you want to call someone weird? Dude, have you seen Kamala Harris?
Just plain weird. You know who's plain weird? She's plain weird. She's a weird person. Look at her past. Look at what she does. And look at what she used to say about herself. And I won't get into it. What she used to say and who she was compared to what she said starting in about 2016. She became a totally different person, only for political reasons.
Of course. It goes well beyond the suit and the voice and the new speech writers and the reinvention of all of that. She will change whatever she has to accommodate the people who are pulling her strings. We know that. It's obvious. We've seen it before. In fact, we've been living it for the last 3.5 years. You know what? This really has been all about Kamala Harris and her fake voice and her pitiful rally. But since Trump is here, one more clip from last night's interview, because he was asked by Laura Ingraham, let's say you win this November. Let's say you have your second term. 5 years from now, what do you want your legacy to be? Good question. I want you to see the answer.
Hey, Larry, can we restart the screen share? We lost our audio.
We lost that?
Yeah, can you just restart?
Yeah, hang on, guys. Just a sec, and I will reset that. Sorry. It's very weird when that happens, but it is. Oh, hello. I disappeared, but now I'm back. It's very weird when that happens. Hang on, guys. This is only for the people who are watching the live stream. Aren't you lucky that you can see our technical glitches? They're very few and far between, but they happen. All right, let's get back to it again. This is President Trump on his legacy.
Just plain weird. You know who's plain weird? She's plain weird. She's a weird person. Look at her past. Look.
Wrong one. Hang on.
Your legacy in one or two lines. 5 years from now, assuming you've been president for 4 years, you've finished your second term, what do you want your legacy to be for America?
That I loved our country and that I was able to straighten it out because our country's going bad. We're a failed nation. We're a failing and a failed nation. We're laughed at all over the world. When I was president, we weren't laughed at. President Xi was not laughing at me. He wasn't giving us lectures like they did in Alaska in the early weeks of the Biden administration. I've never seen anything. They would never do that. Mexico wouldn't say we want $2 billion just to talk. Mexico gave us everything. Remain in Mexico policy. Nobody could come in. They had to remain in Mexico. Mexico gave us everything. We had a strong border. We had the strongest border in the history of our country. Listen, when I made the right turn, you know why? Because I put up a chart of the lowest immigration in recorded history.
It's almost like Donald Trump wants his legacy to be that he put America first and made America great again. A little pithier answer there. He should probably work on that. Well, the remaking of Kamala Harris goes well beyond just her suit and her fake Southern accent. They're now trying to remake her record, if she's got one. Now, yesterday we showed you a man on the street interviews, people in New York. Hey, you're excited about Kamala Harris. You know, what are her big accomplishments? And of course, nobody had anything that they could provide. But we got some pushback. It's like, well, you know, those could be Trump supporters. Those could be people who don't like Kamala Harris, right? Okay, fair enough. The exact same question was asked at the rally, specifically of people who showed up to support Kamala Harris. These are bona fide, vetted, 100% Kamala Harris supporters. So the question is again, can you tell us her accomplishments?
I don't know. She was vice president of the United States and she was attorney general in California and she was the senator from California. I really don't know much of what she did.
I'm not sure I know enough about her accomplishments to answer that question.
Well, the first is that she is the vice president. The second, that she was in the Senate. And then also that she was the attorney general for the state of California.
I just want to pause there because you hear this a lot whenever you challenge somebody. It's like, what has Kamala Harris done? And then suddenly they'll read the resume, right? The titles she has held. In other words, if you really want to point to being the Attorney General of California or the DA of San Francisco or the U.S. Senator from California or the Vice President of the United States as accomplishments, being those things is not the accomplishment. The accomplishment is that she won an election. That's it. But just winning the election and thus attaining that title is not actually an achievement beyond just that, winning the election. But this is what you get a lot. The one thing well, are you kidding? Look at her resume. A resume does not a career make. All right.
Is being elected to Congress. That's number one. I think breaking some glass barriers as being the district attorney. And I just think the way that she carries herself.
She was Attorney General in her state. She moved up to becoming, the Vice President of the United States. So she has definitely made she's definitely made her stamp in history of being the first African-American female vice president, and soon to be first vice president as a woman of color. I think another one of her accomplishments.
Yeah, they didn't have much, but that's the problem with Kamala Harris, or it's the beauty of Kamala Harris. See, she's a tabula rasa. Since she is a clean slate, they can basically fill in whatever they want. And if they say it loud enough and sound smart enough, the media will just take it. And they'll say, yeah, that's right. That's who she is. That's what she stands for. That's exactly reality. Well, we'll get into in a moment exactly the fake accomplishments they're trying to assign to her and the lies that they're telling about her. But quickly, Kevin O'Leary, our pal from Shark Tank, you know, Mr. Wonderful, he was on with Jesse Waters last night on Fox News Channel. They did an analysis, first of all, about the fact that Kamala Harris, if you live in Washington, D.C., there's one thing everybody knows, and that is her staff hates her. She has had the highest turnover of people in her comms department, the chief of staff, the legislative people, the people who work with her. They have been leaving in droves over the last 3.5 years. She's a hateful human being to work for. That's also a sign of maybe a flaw in one's management style. But then Kevin O'Leary brought it home with regard to her actual achievements as vice president.
And there is precedence for what's going on here. I ask everybody to look north to Canada. When a young Justin Trudeau swept in, nobody cared about his executional skills or what he'd ever done or anything. They just thought he was the it guy. Look at the country now. It's wiped out. And because it turns out the guy had no executional skills. It would be important to leave aside the politics and ask, what has Kamala Harris actually done? Actually achieved? Because if I was hiring her, and I'm not trying to be partisan, I would ask her, what was a goal? What did you achieve? Because any governor or any senator that would put into presidential viability would have a history, a track record of doing stuff.
What do you think she would say, Kevin, if you asked her in an interview straight up, Kamala, what's your biggest accomplishment? What would she say?
I don't know, because I don't know of one, but I can tell you this. In the next 2 weeks, the happy talk is going to have to stop, because someone's going to sit her down and say, let's talk inflation. Let's talk border. Let's talk policy on energy. Let's talk policy on foreign affairs. And if she doesn't deliver on that with the new vision towards the center, the guy that said, I wish we'd run a process is going to be right. And there
Yeah. And I really quickly want to put that was great. Absolutely 100% true. And yes, all the happy talk needs to end pretty quickly. I just want to point out, and this is why we love our commenters at Rumble and at YouTube and our live stream. Dartmart, that's brilliant. I called her a tabla rasa because she's a blank slate, but more like a tabla rasa because she makes everything about race. Well done, you. I wanted to interrupt and just draw a highlight to someone who deserves a bit of a high five. Nice job, Dartmart. That said, because she is a blank slate, they are able to either assign to her whatever they want for the purposes of pulling her strings and getting her to victory, or even better, whitewashing and modifying reality to basically create their own history, their own reality as to what happened and what didn't happen during the last 3.5 years of her vice presidency. Let me give you Exhibit A. We're seeing this happen before our very eyes. Remember how last week the big push, the lie, the talking point that was repeated everywhere by the media, because they're not a media, they're propagandists, was, oh, well, she was never really the border czar. She wasn't the border czar. There's no way she was never the border czar, right? Now, we pointed out to you two obvious facts about that. Well, three obvious facts. The first is it's a lie. We know she was the border czar, number one. Number two, by doing that, they are obviously acknowledging the fact that the border is a complete and total disaster and a huge vulnerability. Because let me tell you something. If the lies they tell about the border, that it's secured, everything's wonderful, and it's never been better, if that were true, then they'd be building a monument to her as our greatest border czar ever, right? The reason they said she's not the border czar is because they're terrified that she's going to get tagged with the border, right? The third reality that this proves is that the media is willing to do anything these people tell them to do, even if it defies actual reality and their own reporting from the last 3.5 years, because they are so in the tank, not necessarily to help Kamala Harris win, but to help defeat Donald Trump. And so given that, that was last week, right? Well, this week they've decided that no one's buying it. Everyone knows she was the border czar. Everybody knows that she's responsible for the disaster at the border. So now their strategy is going to be to lie about the border, to say that actually they did a much better job on the border than Donald Trump ever did. Watch this from the rally last night.
So in this campaign, I will proudly put my record against his any day of the week. Any day of the week. Including, for example, on the issue of immigration.
Yeah, so, including immigration. This is the new pivot now. I didn't have anything to do with the border. I had nothing to do with immigration. Now let's talk about how I'm so much better than Trump on immigration. But think about it. She says that she's willing to, well, how did she put it again?
So in this campaign, I will proudly put my record against his any day.
Boy, that's so rehearsed. Any day of the week. Remember how many videos we've shown you of people who are just drawing a blank when you ask them what her record is and what her achievements are. And now she wants to hold up her record of achievements against Donald Trump's any day of the week. And so the immigration lies begin. Here's Chris Murphy, senator from Connecticut, telegraphing the punch last night.
Kamala Harris was not named border czar, but she was given a very important but discreet task. She was asked to try to work with our Central American countries to reduce those reasons that you properly explained that people leave those countries because of violence or political instability or economic destitution to come to the United States. She did exactly that. In fact, she organized over 50 American companies to invest $5 billion in 3 key Central American countries. And guess what happened over the first 2 years of the Biden administration? Migration from those countries was cut by 50 to 60%. So Kamala Harris should run on her record of successfully reducing flows to the United States from those 3 countries.
There, see, last week she had nothing to do with the border. She had nothing to do with immigration. Stop lying about her. This week she should run on her record of being so successful on illegal immigration. It's really clever the way they do it, isn't it? And incredibly transparent. In fact, it's the only thing transparent about this administration. So here she is at the rally, echoing it directly.
Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been talking a big game about securing our border, but he does not walk the walk. Or as my friend Quavo would say, he does not walk it like he talks it.
She's so real. She's so genuine. She's so street. She's so hip hop. Says absolutely nobody. I really wonder how long they're going to try to carry this one off, because I think they're trying this, but I don't think it's going to last. But I'm glad they're trying it, because it does show her to be the buffoon that she is.
So look, our administration worked on the most significant border security bill in decades. Some of the most conservative Republicans in Washington, D.C. supported the bill.
Actually, that's not true at all. First of all, they think every Republican other than Mitt Romney is. Actually, they think Mitt Romney is really, really conservative, too. I don't want to relitigate the border bill. It was a disaster. It was a nightmare, and it wasn't going to get any votes from the Republicans. They should have never negotiated with Democrats. The Democrats never actually came there with good faith. But what you're about to hear is lie after lie after lie, because Kamala Harris is going to say that Donald Trump blocked the bill. Now, you know that's not true. You know how I know you know that's not true? Because you're smart enough to know that Donald Trump holds no elective office. He can't block anything. He's a private citizen. Now, it may be true that other Republicans blocked the bill, and it may be true that they blocked the bill because in consultation with Donald Trump, the leader of the party, it was determined that this bill would actually make things worse. But watch the lies come out. The uninformed voter, Rush Limbaugh used to call them low information voters, will actually think that when Donald Trump was president, he blocked all of the things she's claiming this bill did. Watch how she lies.
Even the Border Patrol endorsed it. It was all set to pass. But at the last minute, Trump directed his allies in the Senate to vote it down. Right. He tanked the bipartisan deal because he thought it would help him win an election. Which goes to show Donald Trump does not care about border security. He only cares about himself.
All right. Now, we'll let the minstrel show go aside for a minute here because I know how odious she is to you, and I'm not in the business of repelling viewers. But I just want you to know that if this is their strategy and they want to have a head-to-head competition between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump on border security and immigration, bring it on. Because I actually do have faith in the American voter, and I think they know the difference. But they're going to try lying. Watch this lie. Here's her latest ad.
On the border, the choice is simple. Kamala Harris supports increasing the number of Border Patrol agents. Donald Trump blocked a bill to increase the number of Border Patrol agents. Kamala Harris supports investing in new technology to block fentanyl from entering the country. Donald Trump blocked funding for technology to block fentanyl from entering the country. Kamala Harris supports spending more money to stop human traffickers. Donald Trump blocked money to stop human traffickers. Kamala Harris prosecuted transnational gang members and got them sentenced to prison. Trump is trying to avoid being sentenced to prison. There's two choices in this election: the one who will fix our broken immigration system and the one who's trying to stop her.
Now, understand, of course, that fixing the broken immigration system means amnesty for the 10 million people who have gotten here on her watch illegally. And of course, that won't fix anything. But you see what they're trying to do here. And I hope the Trump team is ready because they do have the facts on their side. The question is, are they ready to fight this? There's one other brilliant example of the lies that I'm talking about. Look at what the Kamala Harris X feed put out today. This is from last night's Laura Ingraham interview when he was asked about that immigration bill. Watch. This is what Kamala Harris's people put out.
Number one, that, but it also made it much better for the opposing side.
Regularize, manage the crisis.
You couldn't manage.
All right. So they put this video out and they described it thus. Trump says he sabotaged bipartisan deal to secure the border because it made it much better for the opposing side. This is an 8-second clip. Watch it again.
Number one, that, but it also made it much better for the opposing side.
Regularize, manage the crisis.
You couldn't manage.
All right. Now, you're probably thinking, wow, I can't believe he said that. Well, he didn't. These are the lies. And again, where are all the fact checkers on stuff like this? These are the depths they're willing to stoop to lie and cheat and finagle. I mean, they pushed Biden out of the way at the last second and then placed it with Kamala Harris without nary a vote. That's how desperate they are to stay onto power. And so, of course, they're going to lie about Trump. There was the 8-second clip. Do you want to see the full clip? What he really said? Here's what he really said in full.
Why were you against the House, against the Senate border deal, the bipartisan border?
Well, they allow 5,000 people a week, but a lot of people took it as 5,000 people a day. They said 5,000 people a week, and you read it, and it says 5,000 people a day. Number one, that, but it also made it much better for the opposing side.
Regularize, manage the crisis.
You couldn't manage it. It was so complex.
Now, somehow the Harris for President team cut out that part of his response, that it allowed 5,000 people in a week. Some people looked at it and said 5,000 a day. So, of course, it was a terrible bill. Of course it was. Listen, they want to fight about the border. Bring on the fight of the border. I just hope the Trump people are ready for the lies that are going to be spewed about him and about immigration. But I have a feeling that the American people are ready to do something about the border. And if you look at what's been going on for the last 3.5 years, renewing that program is not really the solution. You know, the last time Donald Trump ran for president, he made the border one of the central issues, and that worked out pretty okay for him. So bring it on. Absolutely bring it on. Oh, one other item on this. Forgive me, I forgot this. Why do you think Kamala Harris suddenly shifted like this? Where last week she was saying, don't look at me. I had nothing to do with the border. I had nothing to do with immigration. Why is that? I'll show you why. MSNBC sort of stumbled upon the truth here accidentally. It's what Rush Limbaugh used to call it, a accidental act of journalism. You see, there's a lot of crime at the hands of the illegal immigrants who have come into this country. We know that. And the crime that illegal immigrants commit, generally speaking, the victims are other immigrants. In this case, majority of them of a Hispanic origin. Citizens who live in Hispanic dominant communities who are now victims of the crime coming in from El Salvador and Venezuela and other countries. So what's that doing to those Hispanic Americans who can vote this November? Take a look at this report from Steve Kornacki.
Take a look. Here's Allentown, Lehigh County. This has the highest concentration of Hispanics in Pennsylvania. It's 54% Hispanic. And look at this. The trend has been toward Republicans. The state was moving toward the Democrats between 16 and 20. But in Allentown, Clinton won it by 42 and 16, fell down to 35 in 2020. This is an area we've talked so much about, the polls showing Trump making more inroads with Latino voters. This is the kind of place where the Trump folks think this trend can continue. Can they knock it down into the 20s this time? Could they do even better than that? Again, you'll see it here. City of Hazleton. Look at the transformation of Hazleton in 2000. She was 5% Hispanic, now more than 60% Hispanic. And again, look at this trend. It was blue in 2012, Hazleton was for Obama. And then Trump comes along. He carries it by 5. He improves it to 11. Again, this is the kind of place that Trump folks think they can do better. And again, this is very much a majority Hispanic city. Or Reading. Again, this is where George was, in Berks County. And you just take a look right here. It's overwhelmingly Democratic. But look, from 2012, when Barack Obama won re-election, to 2020, when Biden carried Pennsylvania, that's a drop of basically 20 points in the Democratic margin here in a heavily Hispanic city. So the trend in the most Hispanic cities in Pennsylvania, as the state was getting more Democratic in 2020, they were becoming more Republican. So when you think of that very narrow margin there, overall statewide, Biden winning by 80,000, Trump winning by 44,000, these are the kinds of cities where the Trump campaign thinks continue this improvement. There could be tens of thousands of votes that switch just because of that. So
that's right. Democrats, Kamala Harris, they are hemorrhaging Hispanic votes right now. And it's because a direct result of their failed border policies. Everybody thinks that, if you have an open border, then Latino voters will be happy. No, actually, quite the opposite. Hispanic voters don't like the fact that they play by the rules. They're citizens. They did it the right way. And now you've got people crossing the border illegally, living in their neighborhoods, and committing crime. The trends are moving for Trump right now. And that's why you see the Democrats and Kamala Harris lying and pretending like they actually care and did something about the border. But they're lies, and the Trump people know it, you know it, and it's time to fight back. Last night on CNN, the CEO of UFC, Ultimate Fighting Championship, Dana White, appeared for, I thought, a great interview, a great exchange where, number one, he didn't take any lying crap from the CNN anchor, but number two, spoke his mind, was truthful, didn't come across as a partisan, didn't come across as in the tank for one person or another, but just flatly explained where we are right now and his opinion on things. You'll remember that Dana White introduced Donald Trump at the Republican National Convention. So, of course, CNN treated him hostilely. But look at how he handled it. This is a masterclass in how, frankly, anyone in his position should handle a hostile interview on a cable news network. But more importantly, this is how you should treat your liberal brother-in-law or somebody who's trying to be the devil's advocate on your Facebook page. You don't always have to flame them. You just address things with facts, with sober reality. And it's amazing, since you have that on your side, how effective it can be. Take a watch.
campaign has already gotten pretty nasty. I think people expected it to get nasty now that there is a new head of that Democratic ticket. It's the Vice President, Kamala Harris. You know, you have joked before that politics is way nastier than sports or the UFC. But what we're seeing, I mean, there's a labeling of the vice president as a DEI hire. You yourself have prided yourself on giving both men and women opportunities at your organization. What do you think of this message that attacks the race and gender of an opponent?
Yeah, I don't judge people by their politics and you know, who they vote for or any of that stuff. And listen, I don't know Kamala. She seems like she's a nice person. You know, I have nothing against her whatsoever. And like I said, I'm not political, but do I think that she is fit for the job? I do not personally.
But it's not necessarily about the policy. It's the approach to attacking one. I mean, I know that you are very well versed in what it's like to have a matchup, and people are going to go at each other for the sake of the sport and entertainment. But when it comes to attacks, particularly, I mean, there was that quote from JD Vance, who is his running mate, talking about childless cat ladies. I mean, these are not things that are in line with enveloping perhaps women into the fold, which is something you have always stood for, you say, in your sport. Why shouldn't that be the same in politics?
Yeah, well, listen, politics are the most disgusting, nasty. It's atrocious what is said in politics, and the things that are being said on one side are being said on the other side too, about Trump and about you know, his choice for vice president. It goes both ways. This isn't like, oh my God, look what's being said about Kamala. It goes both ways. They're both saying it. And like you said, it's already heated up and gotten nasty. And like you said earlier, it's only going to get nastier. That's politics. It is what it is.
Let me jump in here real fast on two things. Well, one thing. I'll get to the other in a moment. But can I just point out that this, all of the pearl clutching about J.D. Vance's offhand comment when he was a private citizen before he even ran for Senate, let alone as the running mate to Donald Trump, about childless cat ladies. I got to be honest with you. Listen, if people take offense to the idea of there being a childless cat lady, I'm sorry about that. I mean, we saw the white women for Harris Zoom call earlier in the week, and I mean, I think that the evidence presents itself beautifully in that case. But, you know, for the last 8 years, they've been calling Donald Trump Hitler. And by extension, I like to remind you all the time that when they're calling Trump Hitler, they're also calling you, if you support him, a Nazi. I mean, who likes Hitler? Who supports Hitler? Who votes for Hitler? Nazis do. Nazis do. So Dana White is 100% right here. It's nasty on both sides. Absolutely. That's politics. If you don't like it, you know, go home with your toys. Otherwise, put on your big boy pants, strap on the gloves, and let's get to it. But when all is said and done, as an American citizen, if a politician is going to call you a name, if you had your choice between childless cat lady and a Nazi, which would you prefer? That's all.
And it definitely goes both ways.
I don't know that it's going both ways to have the childless cat lady comment or a DEI hire. Who's calling you think that Vice President Kamala Harris is calling JD Vance a DEI hire, Dana? Come on.
But either way, she's going to say other nasty stuff about both of them.
She's been calling him weird for the last week, for God's sake. This is the most uninformed anchor in the world. Oh, they won't call J.D. Vance names. They're calling him weird, left and right. We played you the montage yesterday, all across the board. She's probably called him weird. And one other thing. I love that she's saying that DEI is an insult. You know, I don't know about you, but I work for a major corporation. I have to do my quarterly human resource mandated lawyers looking over your shoulder and directing you to take your training so that you don't open up the company to a lawsuit. HR video quiz every freaking 3 months, right? And I'm told, I'm indoctrinated, I'm propagandized on a regular basis that DEI is virtuous. Diversity and equity and inclusion is what we're supposed to all be striving for. I mean, it's more virtuous than than anything. It's the ideal that we hold up here. So when Kamala Harris is called a DEI hire, why do you immediately think that's an insult? I thought DEI was good. I thought we wanted to hire more people through diversity, equity, and inclusion. But isn't it ironic and hilarious? And I will point this out as long as they keep doing it, that they immediately recoil if you say that somebody is there because of DEI. Why is that an insult? DEI is a wonderful thing. You taught me that. You forced me to believe that. What are we always hearing? Diversity is our strength. Our nation is strong because of our diversity. Well, okay. So fine. Your presidential ticket is really strong because of diversity, right? And when Kamala Harris hires her white man to be her running mate, and I assure you it's going to be a white man to be her running mate, I'm going to call him a DEI hire too, because he's only there to bring diversity to the ticket. He's only there because he's white. They're openly saying it right now. So why not believe them? All right, let's get back to it.
It goes both ways. And as voters, what we need to do is cut through all the BS, and you have to look at who do you think is best fit to run the country for the next 4 years. That is our job as voters. All of this stuff is a bunch of nasty BS. All of it. Who's best fit to run the country? You as a voter, that's what you need to decide. Not, oh my God, he said this, and oh my God, she said that. There's going to be a lot of that over the next several months. Cut through, and especially the media. Cut through all the BS that the media on both sides. You guys are really bad. Fox is bad. Everybody's bad. Cut through the BS and vote for who you think is the most fit to run the country. That's our job as voters.
Well, look, I don't wear pearls. I don't pretend to clutch them and pretend that I'm shocked by every nasty insult that is waged against another person. But I think your point, though, about the American people wanting to know who's best for the country, this is the issue. When people are focusing not on policy positions, but personal attacks that have nothing to do with what voters want to hear about, that detracts from the experience of voters making a decision. And that's the problem. And I'm going to just know when you say you guys are terrible, you clearly don't mean Laura Coates. But Dana, that's happening, by the way, right now. And you got this fight that everyone is actually talking about, not in Paris, but now in England. They might be a little mad at you these days, Dana.
Everybody's mad at me these days and in the past, so I'm used to it.
No wonder you get along with politicians. Dana White, nice to talk to you. Thank you so much.
I like that guy. And I like that he approaches this stuff with good humor. And I like the fact that as important as he thinks American politics and government is, he seems to keep it in perspective that ultimately, come on, there are bigger things that we need to focus on as well. So I like all of that. I like the whole package. I really do. Great interview. Great job there on CNN. And a good, as I said, instruction for all of us. One other thing, though, that I just want to get off my chest on this DEI thing, and then we'll wrap it up. There's only one man in America who can answer the question as to whether Kamala Harris was a DEI hire or not, right? This whole debate about Kamala Harris and whether it's an insult to say she's DEI hire. Well, the one man can clear it up. That would be the man who, in fact, hired her, Joe Biden, right? I mean, he's the one who knows whether she's a DEI hire or not. So why don't we just check in with Joe Biden? Not today, of course. I think he's on life support or an iron lung or maybe preparing the pardon papers for Hunter. No, this is a bit of a flashback, not too long ago, but he was talking about his running mate, Kamala Harris. And well, let's take a listen.
To me, the values of diversity, equality, inclusion are literally, and that's not kidding, the core strengths of America. That's why I'm proud to have the most diverse administration in history. It taps into the full talents of our country. It starts at the top with the vice president.
Well, that's fascinating, isn't it? Kamala Harris is not a DEI hire. How dare you say that Kamala Harris is a DEI hire? Kamala Harris has got there on her merits. Her job as vice president and now the nominee for the Democrats has nothing to do with DEI, nothing at all. Well, here's the guy who hired her. Let's break this down again. You know, DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity, equity, inclusion.
To me, the values of diversity,
Diversity.
equality,
He means equity. He has mashed potato for brains.
inclusion
Inclusion. That would be DEI.
are literally, and that's not kidding, the core strengths of America. That's why I'm proud to have the most diverse administration in history. It taps into the full talents of our country. It starts at the top with the vice president.
He's proud that DEI is the strength of our country and his administration, and it starts with Kamala Harris. Listen, I didn't say it. He said it. Kamala Harris is a DEI hire. So says the man who hired her, Joe Biden. Thanks, Joe. Good to see you. We've missed you. That's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video and all the things that you do to make us happy. We appreciate it a bunch. We'll be back next time. In the meantime, I'm Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.